Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey, and I want to ask y'all a rhetorical question, which is how many of y'all would like to be healthy, rich, and happy? Now, I don't know many people who would say, not me, I don't want to be any of those. Of course, we all want to be that, and a lot of us think that if we're rich, we'll be happy, or that if we're healthy, we'll be happy, or that we're happy, we'll be healthy. It doesn't always work that way. And we're here to break down those myths today with a man who is all of those. But he wasn't always all of these three things. You know, he had to go on his own journey, and he's here to save us some time in our own journey, especially all of us younger folk, that we might get healthy, happy, and rich sooner rather than later, and take advantage of a day and age where we have so many resources at our fingertips. What can we do with them? So I am here with Jacopo Iasiello. He is here to have a great time with us. So please go ahead and introduce yourself for us.
Mr. Whiskey, like I love first of all everything about you, the heart, the
Thank
smile,
you.
everything. You have a nice energy. To the name, man, is loving. My name is how you explain is Jacopo Iasiello. You tell perfectly. I'm the author of Healthy, Rich, and Happy, and I am investor, and I'm over here to give. More information is possible to your audience and to you to give the energy I receive in my life and the knowledge to you to elite your life.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when you reached out to me and I was reading through, your life story, I was so interested in it because, you talked about, I'll give a brief overview, which I'll have you go into detail later, but you talk about how, you wanted to have a promising soccer career, you got injured, and so instead you pivoted to entrepreneurship. And at 18, you founded a successful jewelry chain in Italy, and then the rest is history, which we'll get into. I was thinking about this and I said, not many people at 18 have the mindset to be driven, to be a hard worker, to tap into resources and to, think about even doing something like that. But for those who do, the next question then is, how do we access those resources to start a jewelry chain or to start a small business? I mean, first we got to get the mindset right, but then how do we get those resources? I mean, most of us at 18 we're living with mom and dad. We've got no job, or maybe we have a small part-time job. Like, how are we going to start from basically nothing?
Yeah, completely good question. And I explain and I share my experience, like how you possible we are the same too. If now I have different age. When I starting, I coming from really normal family. My mother is teaching, my father is engineer, and what's happening. First of all, you need to understand okay, everybody we are similar. We have similar emotion, but at the same time we are different. And I really young age, I have this desire to learn more, to understand people that have success in their life, not in business only, but to in general in life. And
Mm.
what's happening after I have this big injury where I dream everything about to becoming professional soccer and I really go hard in my life from 7 years old until 17 years old to have this dream. I leave my city, Napoli, where I coming from, to play professional soccer for 3 years until 17 years old, from 14 years old to 17 years old. And after I have this illusion to everything is finished because the injury bring me completely in the knife. And how I starting to develop another identity. This is the big question, and how I find the way is this one. First of all, I coming from loving family, and my mother give me support, emotionally support. She give me her hand and tell me, put in my body, tell me you will succeed wherever you do and which
Right.
kind of thing you want to do. I mean, if most important, if you don't have family support you, find the support inside the book, inside other people. Remember, the 5 people you hanging out, you will becoming. When if you're hanging out with people they have a problem, they have struggling or whatever, you will becoming like them. Two, another thing really important, because how you explain, we have in this beautiful era where you have everything possible through what we do. You are in Georgia now, I am in Miami right now, and we possible communicate. You possible find mentors and people really everywhere, from the book to community to social media, everything. And what's happening is this one. First of all, I explained to you how create my mindset, because I already create my I already play in sport. Sport give me the mindset, the basic mindset. This means do the thing at the correct time every day,
Yeah.
small thing every day, every day, every day, every day. This is the first step where I create my mindset, and through the book. And moving forward to your question, what's happening, how I find economic resource, how I put myself and energy after I have this break point from soccer to another completely different thing. Really go back to this four route. First of all, research. Second of all, you grow. Third of all, do action. Fourth of all, you contribute to other human beings. How I do right now with you, I try to contribute to you and to your audience with my knowledge, my experience. I am in the fourth phase of my life. Now, in the case of the jewelry, I want to break down everything. What's happening when I finish the soccer life? I don't know what I need to do. I'm don't coming from rich family. I want to becoming rich because I have
Right.
this desire inside me, and I started to research. I started to research at that time through a website. I started to understand which kind of business is possible to have more success. And what I do research, growing, and I do action. I take one course in Italy. This course is from the government of Italy, where they teach young people how becoming entrepreneur. But in reality, my main goal through this course is to receive the money from the government, because they too in United States you have this kind of program where you find in internet the possibility for young people that want to build something, where government give the money for low, really low interest. And at that time I find this opportunity in Italy. I go through this
Mm.
school, I learned the basic of business, but really basic, and I take the money from government. I open this first jewelry after I learn, I research, I grow, and I do action, and I make the most big mistake, like every entrepreneur make for the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
I put the jewelry in the wrong position in the alley, where after 6 months I go sleep in the second floor of this shop, and I don't want to go back to my house in from family, because they want to come back, but I feel hurt. I feel to really don't know what's happening, and I am in debt of at that time I remember almost 80,000 euro, 85,000 euro, something like this,
Wow.
uh, minus. And what's happening? I ask to my father, because I believe, remember, I research really deeply, I grow with my knowledge, and I do action. And I ask to my father 8,000 euro, and I tell him, hey, give me this money. I know this business will work. I need to change the position, change the location, do some marketing strategy. I explained to him. He told me, hey, this is for us is a big money. Take this money, but remember, you need to give back to us, and we believe in you. And from over there, I open Modo 20 shop, make this company multimillionaire. And this is my story. This is the story you possible apply, your audience possible apply, means something really easy. Research, grow, do action, and after do the contribution. The action is so important. To find money in United States, you are in the best country in the world to find money and opportunity. Don't forget this.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that for me, what I've seen the most important is that research phase because so many entrepreneurs They're just hot to trot. They want to start right away. We want this business open tomorrow. And people are in such a rush that they don't do the research. They just look up the first thing that pops up on the internet. All right, let's do it. And I'm one of those people where, I didn't realize my podcast was going to become a business. So, I'll give myself a bit of grace. But, I didn't do all the research on, like, I just started a podcast. They say, actually, you should have 5 episodes already pre recorded. You should have all this stuff set up already. When I made my podcast into LLC and expanded the company, I paid a lot of fees that I found out were waived for veterans that I could have gotten waived, but I didn't do the research. I didn't think, okay, how is it for veterans or how is it for other people? It might be, what is it for my income bracket? Is there some kind of pass for that? Is there a lower fee for that? Or are there opportunities for scholarships, for grants, for nonprofit partnerships? And but so many people, we want to, wow, we have our own business and let's start tomorrow. And we don't want to take that time to do the research to implement it effectively. And then even if we do, like you said, we're going to make mistakes. It happens to the best of us, but we are also, especially us younger folk, we have access to everyone who's already made those mistakes. So there is that chance for us to not have to go through it. Like you said, you went through it, but you were in a day and age where there weren't podcasts, hundreds, thousands, millions of podcasts, of people like yourself giving out this information. And I think it's so important for the youth to access that. And I think there's a lot of fear mongering with social media being poison and it's bad. And there is a lot of poison on the internet, but there's also a lot of access to great conversations like this. And I wish that, podcasts weren't too popular when I was younger. They were just starting, but I wish I had known about them and had, started listening to business podcasts, to tax podcasts, to all of this information or reading books. So many people don't read anymore. And there are so many great books out there that are literally step by step how to do exactly what I did, how to build, this business or how to do this. Like your book, for example, that you made as a step by step guide for people to implement. The issue is that people just aren't going out there. They're not intellectually curious or they're lazy or they just think that everything is going to be given to them or they want everything given to them. But like you said,
Yeah. The beautiful thing you share is this one, the laziness is the opposite of growing. If you have
yeah,
don't you don't have desire, inside you, is a big problem. And if you don't have desire inside you, it means you need to find something motivate you. And if you are don't find something motivate you, it's because you are too much involved in this new era, new world where everything you think about they need to give society or parents for free. It's not like working in other country. United States is the only big country really where you have big possibility, which age you have to create
yeah.
something beautiful, something unique. But how you explain research is so important, and don't stop in the research. And but research grow and after moving into action. How you doing now with the podcast?
Yeah, and also just the idea of being a lifelong learner, like even after you make the business, still be researching, marketing, and this and that. Even you can always make more, you can always grow and learn. And I think some people, once they reach a certain point of success, they say, this is it. I don't need to do anything else. And that's where that laziness comes back into play, which is why I think it's important. You talked about not motivation, but small daily habits that build discipline and self control every day. You talked about how for a decade you were practicing soccer every day. And there were mornings where you woke up and you're like, I don't want to play soccer today. My legs hurt or I'm sore or it's cold outside, whatever it may be. And we have to have those small daily, disciplinary practices with our business and with our life. So let's fast forward a little bit. You talked about you borrowed the money from your parents. You said you're going to change the way the jewelry is facing. Where does the story unfold from there?
Yeah, from over there, like what's happening, you see, we return back to, what we talking about, I read one book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and from over there, completely open a new mind. At that time at 20, 22 years old. Yes, 22 years old. And I read this book and immediately is open completely a different scenario. How is working the business with the four area where people they live. And I understand, I wanna stay in the quadrant of investor. I wanna becoming investor for the freedom investment give to people through real estate. And what's happening, I learned, and what because in Italy, Robert Kiyosaki at that time is no don't have any kind of course on nothing. I find somebody mirror Robert Kiyosaki. I remember the name Alfio Bardolla. Now is one person I know personally, and. What's happening? I do this course, and from over there, I started to invest in real estate in auction. I becoming expert in auction. I remember the first 34,000 euro, like yesterday, I remember. Beautiful. Because, like in Italy, people make 1 year of work 20,000. Think about I making one deal only 34,000 euro. Where I take the money for do this? Through mortgage, like I do in Italy is different respect over here.
Right.
Uh, you possible, buy property in auction through mortgage. What's happening? I buy this property and, I reflip and I started this game. And I open another company in the same space of jewelry with a partner, and everything will be perfect at that time. I remember beautiful everything, make a lot of money, super young. I have my family super happy. I have my fiance, rich fiance. Everything looks like wow, and everything in life is happening for some reason. Around 28 years old, I starting to lose revenue in my business of jewelry. And the business of real estate starting to slow down in Italy,
Yeah.
like everywhere. And some my partner, because I travel a lot, for business. What's happening? They, take my company, a big company, really, with big number inside. And from over there, I have two solutions: stop, stay in Italy, find another opportunity, or continue to stay in the jewelry, or but reduce my capacity, or go after some new idea. And I restarting the process, research, grow,
Right.
and do action. Means I remember like yesterday, I see Zillow and I see the drop of the price of property. I coming in Florida in 2011. Wow, I tell you, this is a big opportunity, unbelievable opportunity. I take one flight from Italy to Miami, in particular, Florida is the market I decide to come in for
Yeah.
the reason I study. And from over there, a lot of cry, don't speak English, don't have any kind of connection, any kind of relationship, nothing, zero, alone, with only the desire to create more in my life. And thanks to the divine God, whatever you want to call, my father helped me to continue my business in Italy. And I go back for the 3 4 year, the first 3 year, go back to Italy, America with result, but small result. After I implement everything and I do more than 355 flipping, cash, I create my cash flow property, and every month give me six figure. And I create a really clear strategy now to really share with people, because I believe with all my heart real estate is the most powerful vehicle to create wealth in United States.
Yeah, yeah, that's but it's work. A lot of people like I've had some real estate episodes before on the show, and some people think they're going to become a real estate agent and just start making millions. There's work to do. There are times where, you might not sell a property for months. So it's always something to be cautioned about, but like you said, do the research, look into if it's an opportunity that you can take advantage of. It can be great, and like you said, I mean, I think that's so inspiring that you came, no English, no contacts, you just went after it, and there's a lot of people who let stuff like that hold them back. Now, I want to also pivot to, when I was researching you in preparation for our episode, I know you went to Africa in search of diamonds and gold. What role did that play in all of this, if any?
Yeah, really, like, the rules is like I learn a lot in Africa because what's happening, I create with two partner, one company where we buy gold and refine and we sell. And what's happening in when I went to Africa, I stayed 2 years, go back, and I learned something so important. The important to be to stay in one country give you everything. For example, people they don't realize, and like if you born in America, respect to Italy or Europe, you have a big advantage. If you born in Italy, respect to Africa, you will big born like you will have big advantage. What
Hmm.
means this is what I learned. Go to Africa, I go to understand. And some people they don't decide, but they have the possibility to decide. Two people in Africa, I have a lot of friends. They, possible moving their life normally is more hard for this reason. Please, if you born in United States, you are young person try to understand you are in the best country to create something, and this is what I learned from this country, Africa.
Yeah, that goes back to that old saying, the grass is always greener. Everyone is living on one side of a fence, and we always say the other side is better, and then you go somewhere else and you realize how good you have it. And I think that's so important. A lot of people try to teach like be humble, and that's what the Bible teaches, to be humble, but so many people just take for granted, they get accustomed to, especially in America, or like you said, even in other countries in comparison, we're born with all this stuff and we think, this is just what we're naturally entitled to. But then you go and take a look at other countries and you realize, like, it's not that they're inferior, they just aren't set up the same way. But instead of being humbled and saying, hey, that could be us and we should take advantage of the opportunities we have, we kind of just get this mindset of looking down on other countries and then just selfishly enjoying what we have. And it's a true shame. But I want to get into, you've talked a lot about building business, building wealth, but what about the health and the happiness?
Yeah, I think so. Like this is no, it's so important. First of all, starting with health. Health is means something really important in our life, and only you understand the importance of this word when you don't have, or you starting to moving for really with really when you are really young in the direction of health.
Yeah.
And I think so. I think so. Becoming health is a process of mind, but you need starting. For example, in the book I share, this method called MPBE, meditation, morning, pray, biohacking, and exercise, where these four pillar I share inside the book, and is not coming from my voice, but I take the information from university because what's happening when you read a book, and I read a lot of book, you see something theoric. I want to create something for people where people they go through, they understand step by step how they possible apply the next day, and plus where they come in this information. And health is like related to this word. Meditation, morning, pray, biohacking, and exercise. So important to build the healthy part.
Yeah. So you talk about being rich, being healthy. Where and how did you find happiness? Even with those two things, I know we've talked about how you can have both health and wealth and still be unhappy. So for you, were you unhappy? And if so, how did you become happy?
Yeah, like I every day working on myself to becoming healthy, happy, and rich. What this means, these three words, if you don't continue to work, they will leave you. really, because
Mm,
it means something important. You have two possibility in life. When you becoming wealth for everybody is different. For me, possible means something. For you, possible means something else. Means two in the comparison of the money. For you, for possible be $1 million. For me, possible be 50 million, whatever. Now, why I try to share with you? Because a lot of people, when they arrive to all this reward in their life, they don't push, but they stay over here. And what's happening
yeah.
when you stay over here, you started to go down like this, like this, like this. Now, how is the secret to becoming healthy, rich, and happy? Working every day on yourself. And how, for example, every day I change my mindset. When I wake up, I feel irritated or whatever, or I have a bad dream, whatever. I do this method, MPBE, and happiness is coming out this method. And I use some kind of really technique inside the book where I explain something really important, for example, something free. Everybody they possible do, your audience possible do. For example, so important for me is do like cold shower in the morning, 3 minutes, change completely your nerve system and do like listening music give me energy because
Mm,
music is part of our sense and when you create and what is working for you. I know every day, for example, for me, I have some kind of music where I listening and I visualize every day constantly my day, this podcast, the podcast I have after, the meeting I have after the second podcast, and
yeah.
everything will be perfect align with my mind because I visualize every day and this like is coming from this method really powerful. I take I listening Harold. He explained how is important the miracle morning, and I starting to modeling the important to wake up really early. Now it's working for everybody waking up really early. It's not working for everybody, but the question is so important. You need try to understand where your body is working perfectly. For me, working, for example, for 4:30 in the morning until 2 p.m. and after I go down. Maybe somebody from your audience they want to wake up at 1 p.m. but they feel empowered to 1 hour to another one. But it's important go through this method because this method will bring you happiness automatically.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't want to go too much into it because I want people to check out your book, which we're going to have in the description below for people to check out, which I highly recommend it. A step-by-step guide to building health and wealth with the MPBE method, healthy, rich, and happy. And then before we end the episode, I'd love for you to share if it exists. Is there a saying in Italian that there just is no English version of? Something that only, Italian people would say that English people don't say, or something like that.
It's a lot of word. In particular, depend if in Italian or in dialect, because in dialect is nobody will understand. But in Italian, you have a different. You think about something. I spoke the other day with my fiance. English, they have like the way how we communicate is really like direct. In Italian or in other language, we have different kind of word where you utilize to people to respect them. For example, in Italian we use voi is like uh, we used to hold people to respect. Something in English is not. Or other kind of word we use in Italian is don't translate in English. But in particular, what is not translate in English, the way how we communicate for
Mm,
certain kind of people. When you speak with young people or people with the same age, you are direct like English. But when you speak for old people, people you have a lot of respect, you use other kind of word, you know?
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. Anytime I have an international guest on the show, I'd like to try to learn just a little thing. Like you said, like we discussed, you can always learn something. So hopefully everyone learned about being wealthy, healthy, and happy, but also a little Italian lesson as well for everyone to take with them today and pass it on to someone else. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and for what you're doing. We see a lot of people who have done it, who have become wealthy, they tend to forget about everyone else at the bottom and, live their life of, whatever you want to say, private jets and fancy houses. But you're taking the time out of your day every day to guest on podcasts and to speak with people to help, like you said, that fourth phase to contribute back to help others. So I really respect that.
I really appreciate it. I want to share with you something so important. When you do the fourth part, the contribution is an obligation. And a lot of people, yes, I am agree with you, they forgot because people sometimes they are so egoistic and they are so dedicated to their life. But remember, the truly joy you find when the young generation they will succeed how you succeed in your life, because if it's not, why we accumulate all the money, all the stuff, all the knowledge, and after we will leave this world in one day. I hope so, the not tomorrow, but
Yeah.
like the reality of life and the reality of happiness is this one. When you receive, you have the possibility to share with other people, and this is my main goal through this book. And I believe with all my heart this book possible change the mind of young people like your audience, because inside is a combination of mindset and real estate process, where I believe 1000% in action. And this book give to the action to do what you need to do to becoming healthy, rich, and happy.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, in the description below, we'll have not just the book, but Mr. Iasiello's website, which will have all his social medias where you can connect with him to learn more and just get a whole bunch of information. But again, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide. Through the waves we ride, jokes and laughter fill the air. On this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side. As one family we will abide. In the heart of a ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.